This is Off Track.
Hello, and welcome to Off Track with Hinch or Rossi today. Just me, not even any Tim, which is great. But I am joined by my good buddy, Will Buxton. Hello, Will.
Hello, Hinch. You're up there.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. You're right there. As we record, it's Monday post Elkhart,
Yes,
post Road America, and we are both biding time in our hotel rooms before we head off to our respective planes to the same place, actually, but on different planes.
Weirdly enough, I'm going to Milwaukee to fly to Chicago to fly to London, and you're going to Chicago to fly to Boston to fly to London.
Correct. Yeah. The world is a weird place.
Yeah.
But hey, technology, ain't it grand? Look, we've been wanting to have you on for a couple weeks, and so I apologize for the slight delay in this.
It's okay. We've been quite busy.
We have been a little busy. And the main reason for it was, we had you and T-Bell on, obviously, when the announcement was made that we were all going to Fox. And, one of the things I think a lot of people were talking to you about and asking you about was what are you most looking forward to? And you were getting to experience your very first Indy 500 race day on the ground. And you got to do it from the power position of lead commentator, seeing it for the first time, which is quite something special. So I kind of wanted to just do a bit of a month of May recap and see what it was like for you in this new role going through the greatest month in racing. So
now that the hangover is over.
Right. Now that we've gotten through Detroit, we've had our weekend off, we're back racing, and everything's all well and good. But let's start right at the beginning because, as you mentioned, you have watched the 500, a lot. You're a fan of the sport. You always have been. You've been to qualifying weekend, but first time doing the race itself, first time being there through all the practice. What kind of pre-May prep? Explain the level of pre-May research that you did.
A lot. I mean, I have folders and folders and folders. But for the 500, I was just handwriting notes for weeks and weeks and weeks, and that meant going all the way through to the start, literally to when the circuit was built in 1909. So I did everything down to as even made it to the broadcast, the mathematical formula that they used to design the circuit, So, I had reams of information on the history of the pagoda and the number of times it had been rebuilt or burnt down or all of those things, not to mention, what had happened every year and every race winner and the interesting facts that had happened in those races, just to try and, lock it all in. Because so much of what I knew about Formula One and know about Formula One had kind of come in by osmosis. But this was very much I had to learn it and I had to sort of get it to go in. So it was all handwritten. But it was great because when you were doing the test, when you were doing the open test, and you and Alan were kind of having discussions, and I was texting you through it, and you were like, "Who's the Italian winner?" And I'm
with corrections,
and I'm like, "I know this one. I've researched this." And you were like, "How do you know that?" And I'm like, "Today I've been doing pre-war research." And you were like, "God's sake, man!" So yeah, fun things, and I never got to bring out my favorite nugget. For the 500, which was the link between the Indy 500 and James Bond, which was that in 1932, Count Louis Zabrowski raced. And Zabrowski was the designer and driver of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, which was an actual car. And Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was written by Ian Fleming, who also wrote Bond. But the fascinating thing as well is that Zabrowski was married to a member of the Astor family, thus giving him a link to the Astor Challenge Cup. So you know me, I just nerded out over all the details.
Big time.
Yeah. And loved it. It was great.
But that's the thing. I mean, over, what do we do? 36 hours of practice or something like that?
I think we figured out by the end of the month of May, we'd done 80 hours on air. If you tot it up, Indy GP and practice and qualifying and race day, it was like 80 hours.
That sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, that feels like about what we did. So why handwriting for you? Does that just like help lock it in more than, typing it out or just reading it on a.
Oh, totally. There's something in the physical aspect of writing it. And it kind of took me back to like being at college and handwriting notes. And then I used to write over the top of the notes and keep writing of like 5-6 times until it kind of went in. So yeah, I don't know. It's like, back to being a teenager again and just handwriting all of my notes. But it seemed to go in. And then, once the race starts, you're just in the moment. But the whole experience was amazing. And actually doing the Indy GP was really helpful because you get the lay of the land and you know where you are and and when someone says be here at this time, or you've got a 10 a.m. wherever it might be, you know where the compound is, you know where the pagoda is, if someone says you've got to be here at the fact that
garage N34
and the fact that it's a very different layout, that there are the physical garages there and where everyone's going to be. So that was really, really helpful as well.
So, we go into practice week and everyone had prepped you that practice week is this like slog of a week from a television standpoint. We survived it, but I mean,
I really enjoyed it.
Say your first 6-hour day in the booth of, 4 or 5, 6 consecutive or whatever it was that we did. By the end of day one, were you still like, oh, this is great?
Yeah.
Or were you like, that was a lot of talking?
There was a lot of rain on day one. So
that's true.
We had lots of delays, but it was like F1 testing, and
I remember you said that.
And I always really enjoyed those broadcasts because it's really kind of like light and fun. And, day one, I missed my lunch break because nobody told me I was supposed to be going to lunch at that point. And by that point, I'd missed my window because Townsend wanted to go and take his lunch and then you need to go and do yours. And I was like, well, I might as well just stay here now and eat Twinkies.
With Twizzlers in them.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I love that. And then, day 2, day 3, same kind of thing. It's so nice just to have that looseness and that freedom. And I guess for us in the booth as well, reps are so important. And that month of May was the first time that we'd had so much time together because the early part of the season was really disjointed. We'd have a weekend and then we'd have almost a month off and then another weekend and then almost a month off. And, it's way better if you can just keep the reps going. So you learn consistently and day to day you can make the changes and make it better. Practice is practice, whether it's cars on track or whether it's us in the booth. Every lap, every minute on air is important in terms of, getting the setup right.
It's funny because we interviewed David Malukas on this show last week, I think. And, one of the things we were talking about was how there was this, and, I think we even mentioned it on the broadcast, this weekend, which was coming to that team with the form they had at the end of last year with David's, stock where it was. Everyone was kind of expecting him to step in and immediately be in that sort of fighting in the top 10's pace. And the first few weekends were kind of a struggle. They were disappointing from a result standpoint, even from a general speed standpoint. But his point was, we always said that once we get through May, that's when it'll start hitting, because in May you spend an entire month locked in the same garage with these guys, and you get so much face time, you get so much working time, so many reps, like you say, that it all sort of hits. And for us in the booth, it's sort of a similar situation, right? I mean, 3 of us are new working together. A lot of the people behind the scenes are new working either together or new working in IndyCar or hadn't done a 500. So a lot of people were kind of going through that same sort of thing. So we get through practice and then comes qualifying weekend, which you had been part of before. But I mean, tell me you could feel the emotion and the tension and the stress that is qualifying weekend from this position.
So this is going to sound really weird, but I think qualifying it's probably my favorite weekend in racing. Those 2 days.
It's not weird at all.
And I think honestly, like on a par, maybe even more enjoyable than the 500 itself, because the jeopardy is so high. And I love the stick or twist nature of it. The fact that everyone's trying to improve or having that balance of, well, I think I'm just about okay. And actually a P15 is pretty good. So I'm just going to stay there. And even if I drop down to 18th, 19th, I'm still going to be okay with that. Like, you know, and the fact that it was the first time with the hybrids and the cars were pretty skittish, and we had some really big accidents from people who we wouldn't have normally expected it from. That made it even more kind of on the edge. But I love that, you know, that was probably the longest broadcast we did as well, all month. You know, that is first thing in the morning till last thing at night, and you don't stop. There is, you know, we were literally in an ad break, running to the toilet, running back, and headset on just in time. Welcome back. You know, it's like, it was, it's so intense, you know, and we're getting food sent up to the booth, and we're sitting there and literally just like, two bites of a hamburger before we come back on again. And I loved that. That was really, really fun.
What was so funny for me is I was, you end those days, right? They're marathon days.
Yeah.
They're exhausting because you're mentally, you've got to be on that whole time. You're talking that whole time. You've got to be engaging that whole time. And then you get home and you're just absolutely exhausted. But then I was looking at my phone, and I was looking at like the pedometer on my phone and how many steps I'd taken. And it's like, yeah, I'm like, oh, I'm absolutely wrecked. I wonder how much walking around I did today. And then you're like, wait a minute, I sat in a booth all day. It's like, you've done 2,400 steps today. It's like, that's
not even. That's
horrendous.
Yeah, like you've done 1,500 or like
you did,
you've
done zero physical activity, but you're just absolutely exhausted,
wiped, like absolutely wiped. And you know, it was one of the mad things about that as well was my wife and daughter came out for the month of May, as you know, because we spent a lot of time together in May. But her parents came out as well, just to kind of help with the transition to America. And they were there for the first 2 weeks of the month. And then as soon as everything for the 500 started, they went home. And it was really weird because suddenly that was the point at which I was gone every day from like 6 a.m. till like 7, 8 p.m. at night. I was out. I was at the track and then getting home and just dead. So for those 2 weeks, that's probably the weeks when she needed her parents there more than the first 2 weeks.
Lessons learned.
Yeah, very, very definitely a lesson learned. But no, man, like that week of just the intensity of practice and still not really knowing who was where going into qualifying. And then rolling into the Sunday and the storylines that hit then, you know, Penske being kicked out, the Dale Coyne drivers having to knock one another out, Schwartzman like getting pole. And that was, for me, that was really emotional as well, because I know Robert really, really well. And I know the PreMay guys really, really well. And, you know, similarly, you know, people asked me at the start of the season, you know, how do you think it's going? And I kind of compared my journey to PreMay's journey in that it's all very new and it's all completely different. And, you know, I've set myself on fire a couple of times, like, you know, like Robert's car did at Thermal. And there have been some highs, there have been some lows. I've had a couple of races that I've, you know, crashed out, but you know, it's kind of that period of learning. But watching Robert do it and knowing his story and knowing, you know, the emotions behind that, and then being able to go and do an interview with him afterwards. And we're both new kids on the block. And here we are both about to go into our first 500 together in that kind of prominent role, him on pole and me having to lead comms. It was, there was something really lovely about that. That really just resonated with me. It was really nice.
Something a bit poetic about it all.
Yeah.
So I just want to backtrack a half step. You mentioned that the Penske drama, as someone in this role, right? Yeah. And in this role for the first time at the 500, is something like that, is some sort of controversy, like does the journalist in you kind of like love that there's a story to dive into, or would you rather for your first time not have had something quite so dramatic and polarizing happen?
I'm actually really glad that we did, because we set out our stall in that moment of, we're not going to skirt around it. Yeah, we're new to this and we need to be, you know, playing the game, and we don't want to upset anybody or annoy anybody, especially when, you know, they run the series. But at the same time, you have a responsibility. You have a journalistic responsibility, not just to tell people what's going on, but to be very honest about it and to come at it fairly. But from from all angles and bring it in. And I think we did that. And, you know, the discussions we were having off mic during that point, you know, the folks at home won't know this, but you know, Tim Cindric was ready and available to talk. And we made the decision then that we weren't going to have him on air until we'd heard from Rocket about what had been found, because we were all adamant journalistically, yourself, me, Townsend, you know, we made that decision on the fly in the booth. No, we have to hear the prosecution before we hear the defense.
Right.
And I think that was absolutely the right way to go. And then, you know, and then Tim sort of, you know, said what he said. And I think we were then right to also call that out and say, you know, it wasn't arbitrary. It is black and white. So, you know, this is where we're at. I hope we dealt with that. I think we dealt with it well. I hope the fans thought that we dealt with it well, and that we didn't skirt around it. You know, we did ask the questions, and we have continued to ask those questions as the season's gone on, no matter what it is, you know, whether it's race control or whether it's, you know, the officiating or the scrutineering. Yeah, I think that's really, really important, because you set your stall out early and say, no, we're gonna do this properly.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I want now to move on to the highlight of the month, the big show itself, the Weenie 500 on Carb Day.
Mate, I really hoped you were going to go there. Yes, forever. Forever. So, like, my first oval race.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I just love the fact that we kind of knew nothing about. Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember if we've talked about this on the show yet or not, but like, we knew very little. We heard nothing about it until like a week and a half before. And we only kind of started getting details like 48 hours before this was happening. We weren't sure exactly what we were calling, what was really happening, the tone of what we were supposed to be doing.
Pam, our producer, had been really excited about it for a while. And I think we all kind of thought, it's not going to happen. Like, this is
right. You're like, Roger's not going to let this happen.
This isn't going to fly. And Pam's like, no, it's going to be great. It's going to be really, and we were like, okay, cool. And then I don't think we realized the scale of what it was going to be, and that it was actually going to be a race broadcast. And I remember getting to the platform with you and Townsend, and we were just kind of huddling, and we went, right, we've got to do this absolutely straight. Like, right. Because if we goof around with this, it's going to be too goofy, and it's you know, play it straight. And it was so the right thing to do, because it was so fun, and and playing, and there were moments where by playing it straight, we were almost all you know, in just fits of laughter and trying to hold it together. Yeah. I
mean, if you rewatch that broadcast, pretty much any time there was silence of more than 5 seconds, it's because the three of us are all just trying to not laugh.
Gone, like absolutely gone. And
you and your slippery wieners in turn 3.
Yeah, and well, you know, yeah, and but just all of it. You know, people will ask me, oh, you know, so, you know, the first oval you ever called was the Indy 500, and I'll be like, funny story, actually. It was 6 giant hot dogs. I love the fact that, you know, because the Pacers were playing that week, the New York dog got booed every time around. But mate, honestly, like the way the fans reacted to it as well at the track, there were 70,000 people there for Carb Day, right? And the genuine cheer was just, there was something beautiful about it. It was so silly, and it was so innocent, and just so wonderful. I loved, and do you know what? I'll completely honestly, you know, I've been at Formula One races where there hasn't been that noise of cheering for a driver over the line, right? As there was at the Weenie 500. Like, it was nuts, and I think kids loved it. The broadcast was fun. It kind of went viral because it went everywhere. We got on Sports Center. Pat McAfee had it on his. I think they were watching it live on Pat McAfee's show. Like, it was completely crazy and totally unexpected. I guess, the question is like, what do we do next year? Like,
I know. I was just going to say we've used all of our wiener jokes.
yeah, will
all
the
of our
Weenie
puns
500
already
be back, or will it be something completely different? I don't know. But
Yeah.
dude, the merch as well. I went into one of the merch stands, and everyone was like with their Polo shirt or their Colton Herta shirt. They were picking up a Weenie 500 shirt. A Weenie
Sold
500.
out.
Yeah, completely sold out. Like, it was.
And so
huge
I
success.
thought, because we caught in the stands a bunch of people wearing like the hot dog costume, like the full body hot dog costume. Shout out to the Simpson sister, or Katie Simpson, her sister. And I assumed they were selling these at the track. Okay. Because I'm like, that would make sense.
Yeah.
No, I learned because friends of ours were wearing them. I'm like, no, they went out and like premeditated, got these suits with the intention of wearing them for the Weenie Fight. People were looking like they were amped up about it.
And the anthem. Hands over your stomachs. I wish I were an Oscar by a Weenie. But
so good.
But you know what's really weird for me now is, so back home again in Indiana, like because it's my first time, like I heard when I try and sing it, I can sing the first line of Back Home Again in Indiana, but the second line
it morphs into the Oscar Mayer Wiener song. It's too good. That's too funny. All right. Did you sleep well Saturday night before the race?
Yeah.
You felt good, felt prepared.
Yeah.
Could sleep well.
But I don't think I will next year because I didn't know what I was getting into.
You don't know what you don't know. Ignorance is bliss.
I'm Robert Schwartzman. Don't know what you don't know, right? No, I had no idea. And I was more nervous about the pre-race show because we've got, we have our normal setup that we take to every race weekend. But for the 500, there was, 4 times
3 setups.
Yeah.
And
the amount of trucks and a green room and more staff and, Bill Richards, who, directs the Super Bowl and all of that. And these guys were, it was big time and a huge investment. And I was more, and Chris Myers, like one of the best in the business. And he's hosting one desk and I've got to host the other desk. And it's like, okay, don't this up. So that was big pressure. That was the biggest pressure for me was going into that. And honestly, like that was my real kind of thought process that morning was get through that and then like sell into the race.
You got to think of it like think of it as, for people listening, it's the pre-race show is a scripted feature length film.
Yeah.
Right. But live. So think the pre-show is like a live piece of theater.
Yeah.
Right. Like you go and see a play, you got to hit your marks, you got to hit your timing. Like we've got commercial, everything is to the second. The race is a free flowing improv. Right. It's a lot less structured because you're just reacting to what happens. But the pre-race show is so different to what you and I do for most of our broadcasts throughout the year, which is improv and reacting to what you're saying.
And even our, when we do like the warm-up show or if we do pre-race segments or, you and I, we've done F1 pre-shows and post-shows for years. They're improv. Nothing in there is scripted. And also not having to hit commercial breaks. And we're Main Fox. It's a 2-hour pre-show and you've got to hit your marks. But the weird thing is that sprinkled into the scripted elements are still moments of improv where you're asking questions, you're eliciting answers. You don't know what those answers are going to be. You have to react to those. You've got an interview with Alex Palou on the desk. You've no idea what he's going to say, how long his answers are going to go, what he's going to talk about, where you pick up off the back of what he's said and then what that leads to. But you've still got to get out exactly at the right time and lead to the next piece and look at the right camera, and this and that and all of it. So it's improv and it's scripted and it's everything within the bubble of like the most focus, the most investment as well of the year on this huge show. And I'd never been a part of anything like that before. And that was huge fun. That was huge fun.
It was wicked.
Yeah, it was great.
Was fun. What this is the classic kind of cliche question everybody gets asked. What was your favorite part of the pre-race ceremonies? What's your favorite element of pre-race ceremonies?
Taps.
Yeah.
That really got me. Like that really got, because I'm from a military family. So that just thinking about that now, I'm kind of getting a bit misty about it. That was something very, very special. Yeah, that was the one for me.
Yeah, that's a popular answer because it is. I mean, you've got this stadium with 300,000+ people in it,
and it's just silent,
dead silent, and it's one note at a time from this singular trumpet.
But it's
incredible.
Like, that's so tough to play. Like, you know, we have in the UK we have the last post, which is kind of the, you know, our version of that. And I grew up as a trumpet player.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and like in the UK, you know, it's normally played on a bugle rather than on a trumpet. But it's because you have to change your embouchure because it's all played open. There's no keying on a trumpet. And
I actually don't think I even noticed.
Yeah,
that.
there's no keys. It's all open because it was originally played on a bugle.
A bugle.
There's no.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so every note is just a change of your embouchure. So how you pucker your lips and the amount of air and how tightly the air is squeezed through in order to raise the pitch or lower the pitch, and that's why very often you'll hear the notes crack. Every note was it was like dead in the middle. It was so well played. And so I also from a musical perspective, I was appreciating it as well. But incredible, absolutely amazing moment.
I learned something today. I love that little piece of info. So the race happened.
Yes,
everybody saw the race
after a delay.
Eventually it was a small delay. Yeah. It wasn't like the year before.
But that was kind of fun because we kind of got into that actually kind of helped because that got us into a rhythm of we got 30 minutes to fill in the booth. And so we were kind of like, oh, we're doing our own little extra pre-show now. Which kind of settled everything in. But then Scott goes and stacks it. So we're like, are we going to get a 3-wide start? Are they going to single file it? Because theoretically it's a restart because the race started under caution. But then we did get a 3-wide start and then you're in. It's go time.
And then it goes and it goes like another race. It's just a long race.
Yeah.
But you get through it. We have a first-time winner. We have kind of history being made in a couple different ways. And at the end of it all, what was kind of the overwhelming feeling when we went off air?
So I'm not happy on Sunday night ever. And you know that, like, you know that last night, you know, when we were having
which is still insane. We're still fighting about that. But
yeah, okay. But you know, it's me. I'm never going to be happy with the job that I do ever. I don't think I didn't understand it still until Monday night. And it was going to the celebration dinner and talking to all the drivers afterwards and actually getting to see everybody. And the recognition that one guy and one crew are related. And there are 32 other crews and 32 other drivers who are utterly devastated. You know, and at that moment, you're like, okay, this is way more than just a race. And even the Monday morning, you know, I knew what it was about, but I don't think I truly got it until Monday night. And that's something that I will take into next year because the importance and the impact of it now, I understand that now. And I didn't and I've got to be honest, I didn't until Monday night. It was just, and also I think by the end of Sunday, we were all just knackered. I think I'll know how to pace myself better next year.
It's one of the things you experience as a driver too, right? The first time you go through the month of May, I think no matter what role you play in that sphere, by the time Sunday comes around, you're just like, we just want to get the race going. Like we're just so over all of the buildup. It's time to just go and get going.
Yeah.
And kind of the same situation for everyone. Have you watched the race broadcast back?
Yeah. Yeah. I have. I watch everything back, because you got to. You have to go through and make notes and figure out what you did that you liked and what you did that you didn't like. And as always with me, there's about 98% that I wish I'd done differently. But there you go. It is what it is.
Coming into this, I was going to ask you to kind of give yourself and then the broadcast as a whole like a midterm report card grade.
Okay.
But I don't even want to hear it, because you're going to give yourself a criminally low grade, which is not fair or accurate.
I think I'd probably fail myself. I think
you're such an idiot.
I've been kicked out of college, and I've been sent back to take my SATs.
You've been held back a grade.
Exactly. My scholarship's on the line. Listen, I think that the great strength with our team is that every weekend, but also every day, we're taking learnings and we're recognizing ways that we can improve. I think that the pylon is a really good piece of evidence of that, and how much that has evolved from the first weekend to now. Not just, the fact that it works more often than not now, but also the sizing and how things are shown. And, this, people might not have noticed, but we've moved from highlighting the top 5 to now highlighting the podium. And so that allows more space for more drivers on the lower part of the pylon. And these are, they may seem like little changes, but they're actually quite big changes in terms of how we're presenting the information and tires and all those kind of things. So those modifications are happening there, and that's a very kind of visual representation of the changes that are being made within the group every single weekend. We have an amazing team, but very few of them had ever broadcast IndyCar before. Some had never broadcast motorsport before. So it's a massive learning curve. They're hugely experienced in other sports, and they come with a wealth of award-winning experience. But IndyCar is unique. It's unique within motorsport. And it's funny because, the season is so short that, by the time we've been doing this for 6 months, we're then on a 6-month hiatus. So, yeah. So I'm still finding my feet. I think we're all still you always learn, in whatever you do, whatever job you do, you learn every day. But we're getting there. I think I'd probably give us a B, like a B, B minus. I'd give myself a D. You and Townsend get an A plus.
No, that's not how it works. That's not. You don't get to do that. That's why I retracted the question.
Yeah, sorry.
No, we edit this, so I'm just going to bleep that part out.
Fine.
So
whatever the mark is, just bleep it. I give us a beep.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, look, I think you've been doing a phenomenal job, and it's been such a blast getting to work alongside you the first half of the year and see the growth and see the enthusiasm and see the whole group all coming together and getting better and better. And I think it's coming across in the broadcast. And from what I hear from people, we ran into a lot of fans this weekend in Elkhart who had, some really good things to say about the work that Fox is doing and the production team's doing and the broadcast team's doing. So, so far, so good, bud.
Yeah, I think so. And do you know what's really cool as well? Obviously we all focus on the figures that we get after the races. But I think something that maybe hasn't been spoken about as much is actually how much the Fox promotion is helping the footfall at racetracks, from St. Pete, the busiest St. Pete that anybody can recall. Long Beach was jam-packed. Indy 500 was a sellout. Everywhere we go, the promoters are saying, this is huge. We've sold more tickets than ever. And that's a big part of the promotion as well. So I think, to our bosses at Fox, amazing job that they've done with the promotion, not just in terms of getting it out through the TV to people, but getting people to come to the track as well, because it's really cool, man. It's great to see how busy the races have been.
Yeah. And we still have a bunch to go. We still have 8 races left. You get a week off.
8 races in 9 weeks or something. This is mad.
Some mad stretch, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So, buddy, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Great work, as I've been saying.
Thanks, buddy.
Safe travels. We'll wave to each other from different planes going to the same place.
You're upstairs, so I'll see you before we go. And failing that, I'll see you in the UK next week, mate.
All right.
All right,
Sounds
buddy.
good, buddy. Safe travels.
Bye, mate.
This has been Off Track with Hinch and Rossi. Off Track is part of the SiriusXM Sports Podcast Network. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, please give a 5-star rating and leave a review. Subscribe today wherever you stream your podcasts. We are at Ask Off Track on Twitter and Instagram, and if you want to follow us on Twitter, we're at Hinchtown and at Alexander Rossi. If you want to follow Tim, though we have no idea why you would, he's at the Tim Durham on Twitter. Find us on YouTube and subscribe to our channel for exclusive video content. Off Track is produced by Tim Durham, and by that we mean Tim.